Welcome back to the Yukon adventure. Today we're doing the stocking up contract, which requires us to haul 5 loads of long logs to various locations in Big Salmon Peak. This is the final logging contract of the region, and I'm excited to get it over with. There will be some moments of sketchiness, and not everything is going to go perfectly smooth. So stick around and see how it goes. Let's get started. In the last few episodes, we've been working out the power issues of the Pacific P12, and last time we used the OHD1 tires, which have more grip, and we just toggled off the all-wheel drive when needed to get up those steeper inclines. On this episode, we're taking a different approach. We're going to use the JAT ATHD3 all-terrain tires. They have an off-road rating of 1.5 and a mud rating of 1.4. The fact that they have less grip is going to give us an advantage with this truck to allow the tires to slip a little bit on some of those inclines, and that should give us a little extra power to get through some spots. If you don't have the JAT tire pack, the default P12 tires are not really a good choice because they only have a 1.0 mud rating. So in that case, I would probably use the ATHS ones. They're singles, but they have a 1.2 rating in mud, and although it's not quite as good, they would still work in this situation. So for the sake of science, we're going to use these all-terrain tires today and see how well they do. So we can stage the P12 over here to the right while we bring the Dan down the hill. We're going to take that shortcut that we've been taking. It definitely shaves a lot of time off getting to the logging station, although this is probably the last episode that we're going to have to do this on. I also installed the JAT MHS4 mud tires on the Dan. They have an off-road rating of 1.8 and a mud rating of 2.6. So if we get into any deep mud that we can't get through, the Dan should be able to help us out. When I'm driving these two trucks in tandem, I've been using the trailer view so I can make sure the Dan doesn't get all smashed up running into stuff going around some of these corners. These roads are pretty tight and there's a lot of twists and turns, and if you're not paying attention to where the truck behind you is, you'll probably lose your tires and suspension on a lot of this debris that's laying around. We're going to take the first 2 loads of long logs to the warehouse by the concrete production plant. Let's run back over by the maintenance trailer. We're going to get topped off in the P12 one last time because this is going to be a fuel intensive trip and we don't want to run out before we can get back. We'll hang a right on the tracks like we've been taking. We're going to run up to the metal rolls production plant and we'll take that back road out of there and the shortcut that heads across the map through that rough terrain. I'm not too worried about the Dan. It's pretty fuel efficient, and when it's being pulled behind the P12, it uses less fuel. The truck in front is always going to use more fuel because it's pulling the one behind to some extent, and that extra load on it increases your fuel consumption. Right off the bat, I can tell you that the all-terrain tires perform quite a bit better as far as power goes, but when we were using the OHD ones, we had to drive most of the time with all-wheel drive toggled off. In this situation, you're probably going to have to drive most of the time with it turned on. They just don't really have enough grip to cover a lot of these areas without it. One nice thing though is you'll be able to use your high gear if you're using the special gearbox, and you're a lot less likely to power out. So heading up this road, there's definitely some spots where you're going to have to watch out for that truck behind you so it doesn't hit the trees. And also there's a lot of spots where the mud gets pretty deep, and we'll be pretty happy that the Dan is back there pushing along the way. This first hill here is difficult to get up. Just try staying to the right so that you can use these trees to winch yourself up with. If you drive right up the middle, the trees are just too far away to get a good angle on them. You'll only be able to pull yourself left or right instead of forward. We can park the P12 off to the side here and jump back in the Dan and get that up the hill. Even though the Dan has more power and mud tires, it's still struggling to get up it. One downside to using the trailer view is when you switch between trucks, there's something wrong with the code in the game that sends you back to the truck view when you jump from one to the other. So I like to change it back to the truck view before I switch between them. It just helps to avoid that issue. It is a little bit more of a pain in the butt though. And driving in trailer view is also difficult because you can't see what's immediately in front of your truck, and you're a lot more likely to run into stuff and take damage. So as you can see, we didn't really have much of an issue getting down this road. These all-terrain tires do perform pretty well with the extra weight of the P12, and I really enjoy using them. The biggest struggle that you have with them is when your truck is empty, it doesn't really have that extra cargo weight to push down into the ground. Having two trucks in this situation is kind of nice though, because if we do get into any problems, we have the second truck there to help us out. Going past the concrete production plant, that warehouse is just around the corner to the left. We've been back here once before with the F750 when we came back here to activate the task that is required to open this warehouse. So let's get these unloaded, and then we're going to drop the trailers to turn them around so we don't get flipped over in the process. Using your winch to turn these trailers around is a lot safer. And then I'll just pull the P12 up here and get it ready to drive out. I didn't even realize the logs fell out of the side of the den. I'm not sure where that happened, but as long as they don't come unpacked, you can still turn them in. Now that we have two of the loads delivered, we'll get the Dan turned back around, we'll get hooked back up to the P12, and we'll head back to the logging station. We're going to take a different route back out of here to try and save on some fuel and make it a little bit quicker. Heading out of here, you can tell that it's definitely gotten deeper. Since we drove through here already once with the logs, it tore it up, and these all-terrain tires are suffering just a bit. We'll make it back out to the pavement, and then we're going to take a right and run up the highway. Now the all-terrain tires have a higher asphalt rating than the mud tires, and even on icy roads, a higher asphalt rating will benefit you, as you'll be able to see once we go up this hill. We're going to drop the Dan here so that we can make sure we keep our momentum. Momentum is a big thing on this hill if you don't have chain tires. And as you can see, the all-terrains made it to the top without any problem. But when we try to take the Dan up it with the mud tires, they just spin out. And you can winch yourself up this hill, but it's very difficult. You kind of just have to make sure you keep pulling yourself to the right so that you can get up next to that guardrail and get some traction on the snow. It's not an easy task though, and I'm sure some of you have already done it and know exactly what I'm talking about. The trees are kind of just out of reach to get a good winch point. Once you can get connected to that top tree there, you're pretty much home free after that. And I accidentally jumped in the wrong truck. Let's grab that Dan, we're going to head back out of here. We'll follow this road all the way up over the top of the mountain, down the other side, and the logging station shouldn't be too far from there. Off to the right is where we'll need to deliver pretty much all of the materials needed for the contracts in this region. So everything's going to come from the outside edges of the map and come back to the middle. We're close to getting started on those contracts, and I'm looking forward to it. Coming down the other side, we can turn off into the water. It's pretty muddy through here, and it's going to take a little while to get through, but just use low gear if you need to. I'm not really having any issue with auto, but I do also have the Dan back there pushing. Now we're back. We're getting pretty low on fuel, so let's get the P12 topped off, and then when we come back around, we'll get the Dan filled up. Let's head back over to the logging station. The next load that we're going to deliver is the two loads that go up to the mountain warehouse. That's the warehouse on the west side of the map that we need to unlock by bringing that curtain side trailer over there. and it's going to be a challenge getting up there because it's a pretty steep road heading up into it, and some deep snow. So just like last time, we'll get the P12 loaded up and we'll stage it off to the side while we load the Dan. I'm not going to use trailer view until after we get over to the maintenance trailer, just so I don't have to keep jumping back and forth between views. So make sure that you connect to the passenger side of the Dan so it doesn't get hung up on this wood when we're going by here. And that one section right there is starting to get pretty muddy since we've gone through there already. I'm trying to drive on different tracks instead of following the same exact path each time, and that does help, but I'm still already noticing that it's getting tore up. Okay, we got the Dan topped off. We can top off the P12 on the way. There's another fuel trailer. So let's head out of here and we'll take a left. And we're gonna head up this flooded road like we did on the last episode when we were hauling medium logs. Last time we had the OHD1 tires, and they do perform quite a bit better in the mud, but I think we'll still be able to get through here just fine having the Dan behind us. Although the Dan crept up on me and I need to get it behind the logs to push a little bit easier. So I'm just gonna disconnect from it for a second so I can get some space between the two trucks. Although I should have probably connected to the passenger side, because after I went over the first bridge, the Dan got stuck there. Let's see if we can back it up and get it straightened out. I managed to get it wedged on the bridge, and there isn't anything to winch to. So we'll need to use the P12 and back down in there and use it to push the Dan out. If you end up in a situation like this, just take your time so you don't accidentally drive off the side of the bridge, because you'll have a bigger problem than this. Let's see if we can back it up. There it is. I think we should be able to drive it out from there. Okay, leaving here, once again, watch out for these barricades because they do smash your truck up real bad. So just try to straddle the feet the best you can, and then make sure you're paying attention. Don't just ram through there because they will wreck your stuff. Let's set up the road here a little ways. Once we go through this mud hole, we're going to take the first left, and we'll run up to where we left that scout fuel trailer when we were scouting this map out on the second episode. Be real careful going over these tracks because that concrete edge there is jagged and it will smash your tires and suspension. So just slow way down. Alright, let's top off the P12 real quick. This is going to be another fuel intensive trip up into the mountains, and then we'll head up this road. It gets real steep real quick, and this will definitely be a situation where I'm glad that we're using the all-terrain tires. I've done this before with the OHD ones, and they just tend to have too much grip in a lot of these steep spots, and your truck just powers out. You have to winch it all the way up. Kind of like we had to do last time when we were driving up to Mr. Stevenson's house. Thinking back on it, I could have probably installed these tires before we started that contract, and it might have made it go a lot easier. Mostly I was just trying to show the difference between all the tires, having used the JAT mud tires and then the OHD ones, and now these JAT all-terrains. In the end, I would say that these are the best ones to use on this map. Having said that, it's also the case if you're experiencing power issues with the Big Kenny, you can switch back to the default tires that come on that truck, and you might have a similar experience. Since the Big Kenny is a very heavy truck, it doesn't require a whole lot of grip in order to get through stuff, and the big balloon tires that come stock on it are actually pretty decent. We'll go past this area here where we have the warehouse in the mountains task and just continue straight up the hill. This hill is kind of steep. It usually does power it out. but it seems like it's doing pretty good through here. And just down the other side is our drop-off point. Even though we're going downhill, it's still a struggle to get through some of this snow. Pretty much right until we get to this corner, then it kind of lightens up. We can get this stuff dropped off, then we'll get ready to head back out of here. The last trip that we need to make only requires one load, so we're going to run back by the garage and drop the Dan off there, and I'll show you kind of a shortcut way to get back there so we don't have to drive down that big long hill that goes by the fuel carrier. We just need to head back up the road and get over the top of this hill, and just on the other side of it there's another road leading out of here. And we did find another muddy spot, but this road I was referring to is the one on the left here, and the snow and mud actually does get pretty deep and it's kind of off-kiltered, so an even quicker way down is to just go over this ledge. Make sure you use your brakes through here because it's really steep, and then you'll have to kind of stay to the right because some of these trees are not breakable and you will get stuck on them. We got the Dan's logging trailer stuck on it, so we'll have to jump back to it and winch it to the side. And then we should be good from here. Now that we're back out the bottom, the gateway is just up ahead to the left. We're going to take a right and we'll be back to the garage in no time. I'm not going to actually run the P12 through the garage because we got fuel over by the logging station we can use from that maintenance trailer. So we'll just make a pass through and drop the Dan off here. This last trip is going to go a lot nicer, just driving by ourselves and not having to pull that other truck behind us. I would rather do all the loads like this, but then we'd have to drive to every location twice. I'd rather just drive 2 trucks and make 1 trip out of it. But you will notice that it goes a lot easier when we're just driving 1. So we're going to make our last trip back down the shortcut hill. Probably getting pretty good at it by now. We'll get loaded up and we're going to run back over to that maintenance trailer. And on this trip, we don't have to use trailer view, so that's a big plus. This section here is definitely getting tore up. I'm having a hard time getting through here now, mostly because the bushes in there get you hung up. But when you add in the fact that the mud is getting deeper, it makes it a little bit harder to pass through. We've used a pretty substantial amount of the fuel out of that trailer. We're down to 656 liters now. We probably won't really need to use it much anymore after this, so we should be able to turn it in soon and get that other warehouse opened up. We're gonna head out of here again, go down the muddy road. This time it's been tore up pretty bad because we've gone through here a few times now, and we don't have the Dan width to help us out, so let's see if the P12 can hold its own. Actually seems like it's doing just fine. And the barricades are already blown over, so we don't have to worry about them. I kind of feel like this might be the easiest trip. Although the drop-off point at the West Camp is up in the mountains by the hunter's cabin where we delivered the last load of medium logs on the last episode, and getting up into it is quite challenging. If you try to follow the road on the map, there's a high likelihood that you'll end up tipping your truck over. It is absolutely horrible, and I don't think there's any real easy way to get up into it from that road. So if you were going to try that, you'd be turning left here, just like we did last time, but we already know that this truck has a hard time getting up that hill, and just before the drop-off, it gets really bad. So I'm taking an alternative route. It's pretty sketchy, as you will see, but at least I know that going this way, I will be able to get in there and get it dropped off. There's no real easy way to do this one, but hopefully this path that I'm going to show you will make it a little bit easier. So we'll turn off left here by the metal framing. We've gone up this road quite a few times now, but instead of following it all the way up like we have been, we're going to take the first left turn up here and go further up into the mountains. And that turn is right here. This road isn't bad at all. It's not deep or anything, so just cruise up it, and then when we get up here a little ways, I'm going to show you on the map real quick how we can get into here. So you can kind of see where that gap is. Just make a mark on it, and then make a mark on the West Camp so you can see where it is that we're trying to get to. Like I said, this is sketchy. There's nothing graceful about it, but I can at least guarantee that I'll get the job done by going this way. And it's going to require quite a bit of winching. So make sure you grab onto a solid tree, try to pull yourself up to the top of this crest, and then we have to take a hard left into the trees. This is the difficult part, getting the truck turned without getting wedged in here. And you pretty much have to winch yourself over the top and down the other side. The trailer kind of gets jackknifed, so you'll probably need to use the winch off the back of the trailer to get it pulled around. Like I said, this is not graceful, but it's still easier than getting up the other side by coming up the road. We're almost there, just a little bit further, and the power of the heavy winch is just going to pull us right over the top. We're in the clear. We just need to get down the hill before losing this load. As you can see, it did fall out of the trailer. Let's get this thing delivered and be done with it. Okay, stocking up is now complete. All of the logging contracts are now complete. On the next episode, we're going to get started getting prepared to do the big contracts. I've been looking forward to this. I feel a lot better now knowing that all that stuff is done. Can't wait to see you guys on the next one. Hope you're enjoying this, and thanks for watching.